Hi, and welcome to Rauta's Opinion Videos. Today I am gonna do a little bit of talking, blathering and whatnot about split records, which are so kind of famous in metal, especially underground metal. Now, split records are something that is like no importance to so many people, and at least in mainstream I think there are lots of people who have never ever even heard a single split record, might not even know what it's all about. But those in the underground, especially in black metal, death metal, grindcore and whatnot, should know what split album, split release is all about. Now, for starters, I'm assuming that there might be at least like one person who doesn't know what split album means. And for that reason, I also have a example copy of quite recent split album. Split album might look like this. I actually had an LP version of this one, but I kind of gave it away to my friends, so I'm just gonna use this CD as an example. Looks like pretty normal CD, which in fact it is as a format. But if we flip the side and take a look at the back side, we have two band logos here, Malum and Latspell, two Finnish bands by the way, which have put their efforts into one piece of a release, which in essence means split release. So two bands, one album. That is no double CDs, no two discs or whatever, just one piece of an album, one booklet, one packaging and so forth. So what in essence split album is that there are at least two bands which are kind of like roommates in an album or on an album, and they have decided to collaborate, do sort of a cooperation in a way that they both have their, or assuming they're two bands, both have certain amount of tracks. It might be just one track from the another band and one or more from another, and they have decided to kind of like I said, splitting the album in two. Usually that means that, say it's a full-length album like this one, it might be like 40 minutes divided in two. It might be like 20 plus 20 minutes, or it might be 30 and 10 minutes. It all depends on the particular release. Sometimes 7-inch EPs are used in split albums, or well, split EPs to be technically right, and that means like there's like one or two songs per side per band, and the other side would of course feature the rest of the music from another band. For example, in this Malum Latspell case, on the LP version, it's they're like these Malum tracks, which are only three, and another three here, quite long tracks that is, are like sides A and B respectively. Now, split albums can be, like I said, be more than two bands, like sometimes they're three-way splits. For example, my old band has participated in one, and on there we had like basically like every band had their own tracks. We had mutual intro track and a mutual kind of a collaborative track, which featured musical output from all the different bands. Like one band created riffs and drums, and for example my band, me, did the vocals and all that stuff. So it was a kind of a special split release. But typically it's like just an EP or MCD full of music from one band and the same amount, roughly, give or take, from another band, and then they are put together and released nicely. Now that we have covered basically what split release is all about, I'm gonna say why I kind of love it and why I hate it as a format. So why it's a nice format to have, but why it's also problematic. Now the good sides first, I think, is the proper order. Now why I do like split releases is, once again, as an example using this, it's a good way to get to know two different bands or more than two at one go. Basically, you just get your new CD, LP, whatever, and you put it in your player and you start listening to that album or EP, and suddenly, boom, you get to know two new bands, unless of course they are already known to you. It's kind of a time saving, money saving and whatnot saving process in so many ways. For example, rather than spending your money on two different, say, 7-inch EPs or mini CDs, you can actually get a full-length album, which is typically um per minute. It's kind of cheaper, but it's also more convenient rather than you have just like 10 or 15-minute EPs and you just need to flip it if it's vinyl, or just repeat it if it's on CD. You might just get nice 40, 60 minutes albums, and get loads of listening just with that one album. So it's kind of bang for buck ratio is better than with EPs. Also, it gives more kind of a monetary value in so many ways to band. Let's say there are two underground indie bands, very unknown ones. They can just pool up their money and create good-looking album instead of just scratching their savings in order to make some cheap ass version of a release. That is especially good if these bands are self-financed, which I'm usually strongly against for various reasons. But it's a good way, to actually create a valid release. Something that you actually have nice booklet, nice covers. For example, this is nice digipack, and as a vinyl, looks really, really nicely when you can actually see all the details and whatnot. So it's kind of a nice effort in that way. Also, what I do like about split releases is if it's done in this way, or like in my own band's way, when band members actually know the other band members, know the band, know their ideology, lyrics, whatever is going on there in their heads, and kind of can get the feel that like we're on the same page. It's like a mutual agreement of this kind of collaboration. It's like, hey, we should do something together, kind of a joint operation, which I think is a bonding effort. It's also a lot of respect in so many ways. Of course, in the past there has been split releases, which are just put together by a label, and two bands might not know even each other, and like, what the hell is going on? And label is just, okay, we get to save some money, we can get your release out sooner than later because we had just put two bands on one CD and whatnot. But when split releases are done right, it's when the genres match it. Like, for example, these are two black metal bands and basically more on the same page rather than totally different. It's not like one is primitive raw war metal, whatever, and the other is like beautifully keyboard filled female vocalist featured atmospheric black metal. But on the contrary, when two bands are kind of on the same page, both musically, ideologically, and whatnot, it makes a beautiful combination. It's like marriage made in hell, but in a good way. Hell, get black metal, whatever. And the same applies to. It doesn't matter what the genre is. I mean, if you have like two, say, Swedish death metal bands collaborating, I mean, think of this as like a perfect match made in whatever place. Like Entombed and Dismember having a split release. It would be perfect. Or, I don't know, say, Creator and Destruction from, German thrash metal scene. Or, Metal Crew and Skid Row doing a hard rock, split. Or, I don't know, Dark Throne and... I wouldn't actually put Person or Mayhem on the same split, but you get the idea. Or Marduk and Dark Funeral, whatever. You get the idea, I think. If you don't, well, don't sue me. Anyhow, there are bad ways of creating a split album also. Once again, it comes to all how you master the things. For example, if things are poorly mixed and mastered, say one band sounds way louder than the other one, or there's a huge gap between the mixing and mastering in the ways of how the songs are put out, or like two different genres. For example, if, like I said, these even given within black metal style, the style can change so much, be so much different that it wouldn't make any sense. And even more so if just you put some 90s Swedish death metal and tag along with some, I don't know, modern gent, or put some atmospheric black metal akin to Burzum and put that with some Napalm Deathish grindcore, it wouldn't make any sense. Not at least to me anyhow. But when the label knows what they're doing, They won't just, like, okay, one this and one that, and let's put it together and mix and match. But they actually figure out which bands actually would work together. They might just go on and as far as, help these bands to kind of keep this collaborative idea, even if the bands don't necessarily know each other that well. I mean, so in the sense of the cover image would fit both bands' visions, lyrics, and all that stuff, would kind of make sense and all that stuff. But like I said, if those things are poorly done, it can totally ruin the idea of split release. And not only that, even the gap between the band's quality of playing beat up music and whatnot, that can also ruin. For example, if the other side of the band is good, say you totally, like me, dig Destroyer 666, and you're like, oh man, I want to get their split because I love the band. And the other one would be, say, some Streetborg from Australia, which is just horrible bedroom black metal. I would think twice if I would have to put my money on that release. Not only because the Streetborg thing, but it also like why I would, spend my money on if I just wanted to have the other one. Maybe I would just, go and stream those songs from one place or just buy those tracks from Bandcamp or whatnot. So there are problems when the quality of the music is too much different, not to mention genres and styles and whatnot. Luckily, that is not too often in my opinion. But then again, unfortunately, split is something that is kind of deemed to die as a format. There was already, I guess, close to 10 years ago when I was talking about split releases with a sort of a minor label boss. And even back then, and this was prior to streaming revolution with Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, and whatnot, that splits releases are not selling that good. And I kind of understand. If you don't know both of the bands or like both of the bands, it creates a problem. Why would you spend your money on just on the other half if you don't care jack crap about the next one? So in that sense, it kind of makes no sense. Also, because it seems like it's only smaller bands, usually more smaller underground bands, that are doing split release. It's not like you're gonna see Metallica doing split release with Iron Maiden, or Slayer doing split with Exodus or whatever. So it's like you have to stick with kind of small names, and small names happen to be small names just because of the reasons. It's not like any band, well, some band might too, but in general, it's not like bands choose to stay small. They might choose to, be inactive when it comes to touring and doing gigs. They might be kind of slow pace when it comes to releasing new material and all that stuff. But no bands, I guarantee, decides to go unknown. I mean, if they would like to do that, they wouldn't be releasing stuff in the first place. Of course, there are exceptions to every rule. There might be some really cool cult underground acts which just are like totally away from this rule, but in general, you know what I'm talking about. Feel free to disagree, by the way, in the comment section. But what I'm trying to say here is that usually bands kind of aim to become bigger. That helps their not only livelihood. I mean, it doesn't have to do anything with livelihood. It's also about how easily they can create the next album, how easily they can book more gigs, be it festivals or whatever. So bands don't usually opt to choose to stay small, but on the contrary. So when bands get bigger, they are not that kind of happy or volunteer to do split albums. That's usually for the bands that are yet to break, break through and all that stuff. So not break down. So usually split releases are kind of reserved for bands that are quite unknown. And when they grow bigger, these splits don't happen anymore. So it's understandable, but it's kind of unfortunate because splits, I'm not saying like any of my favorite albums are split albums, so it's kind of like a moot point here. But still, I kind of like them. I kind of like them a lot because even though I might know neither of the band or know both of the band, it kind of gives me the feeling that this is something that's done with passion, something out of the feeling of kind of a companionship, maybe not in a romantic companionship. Get the hell out of here. But I'm talking about this kind of a trust, this passion, this kind of like-minded thinking, and all that stuff. And those make wonderful ideas. That's how bands, well, good bands anyway, are made in the first place. More than one people usually have shared ideas. They want to do something together. A guitarist, a vocalist, bass player, drummer, whatnot. And they become a band. So, the more the merrier, right? So if you have like two bands which are similar in mindsetting, but it makes no sense to have like 10 people in a one band, but rather like 4 to 5 people per band, and they do collaboration. Maybe they do a split song, maybe they do more than one, but at least they have the both songs, on an album, and they're like shaking hands and like, okay, we did some good stuff. I mean, those kind of split albums, they might be ultra rare, but I do like them. It's just so unfortunate that usually they're like 7-inch EPs, like 1 or 2 tracks per side, and that's it. And since 7-inch is kind of a decaying format also, it's like something that's gonna be forgotten. And you don't see that many full lengths, albums kind of split format, which is kind of a shame. So my homage, this is the idea: split albums, split EPs, split whatever is great. It's as much as 2 or more bands that support and respect each other do a gig or a festival thingy. It's basically the same when they do an album where they kind of share these ideas and support one another. I totally love it. I adore it, and I hope split album format is never gonna die. I don't know about you guys, but split format is a great, great thing, despite its weaknesses. What do you think? Do you hate splits? Do you like them? What is your first or favorite split? Or do you have any in the first place? Let yourselves be heard and drop your comments below. Thank you for watching. This is Rauta signing off. Cheers.